All right, the Detroit Lions just got a double dose of good news and actually some frustrating news at the same time. So we're going to go over all three of those things, but we are heading into what is essentially a playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings. So here's my question for you. What is your level of nervousness going into the Vikings game as compared to your level of nervousness when we were playing the Rams or the Buccaneers or the 49ers in the playoffs? Like, does this feel like a playoff game? Because I'm getting those same kind of butterflies and feelings. I would put it, I would say I'm more nervous for this Vikings game than I was the Bucs game. But I'm less nervous for it. Now, nervous isn't the right word, just kind of like, like excitement and all that kind of stuff. Less than I was for the 49ers and less than I definitely was for the Rams because there was so much with that, with Matt Stafford coming back into town and all that kind of stuff. So with all that being said, I just want to know where you're at. And now let's talk about some of this good news. And the first one is in our injury report, Alex Anzalone has been upgraded to full practice. That's the first bit of good news. The Detroit Lions have listed him as a full practice, which is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. There is rumors that he will be back for this game against the Minnesota Vikings. Our linebackers were not good. There's no bones about it. Our coverage was not good. And I think one of the things that most people don't realize about Alex Anzalone is that he is good against the run, but he's also very good against the pass. Like, he just is smart. He knows where to go. He knows where to get people lined up. He's a student of the game, and he has games where he is just like all over the place, just looks like a absolute all-pro player. And then he has some games that are some clunkers and not so good, but he usually shows up for big games, especially in the last year or two. So I am excited at the prospect that we could get him back. I was hoping that we would have him back for the playoffs, and I was really hoping that we could get him back for this Vikings game. The fact that he might actually be back and he was listed as full practice could be really good news for us. We'll just have to see what that looks like. Does he come out in a cast? Does he come out is it going to affect his game? Is he going to be limited? Things like that. Those are the things that, it's kind of tough to talk about. But I want to hear, how excited are you to get him back? Like, if it's him or Jalen Reeves-Maybin, I choose Anzalone, even at 85, 90%. If it's him or Ezekiel Turner, I choose Anzalone, right? Like, if it's him or Quan Alexander, it's not even a conversation. If it's him or Malcolm Rodriguez, I still choose him, but I love Malcolm. But, we have to understand, when you put it in context like that, obviously you're realizing, okay, he's really good. He's a really good player. And absolutely an important part of what we do on this team. All right, now this next thing some of you won't care about. I do, which is weird. Most people care more about all pro teams, which is more important. But Pro Bowl rosters. Both NFC and AFC were out. The Detroit Lions have 7 players that have been announced to the Pro Bowl. Only the Ravens with 9 had more. I disagree with that. I think there were some snubs. All right. So here's the deal. We're going to go over the alternates too, but first I want to talk about the players who announced to the Pro Bowl. Why do I care about players that are announced to the Pro Bowl? I don't care about alternates coming in, but if you get voted into the Pro Bowl, right, right away, then that is something to be proud of. That means you're one of the best players at your position in your conference. That's like making an all-star team in the NBA. I understand it's different than it used to be. I really do, but it's still a good honor. All right, at quarterback, we have Jared Goff. He better have made it, all right, because I'm still going to say, how is he not an MVP candidate? I wanted to make a whole video about this. I'm not going to do a super long rant on it, but how is he not an MVP candidate? He is the best player leading the best offense on the best team. How is he not an MVP candidate? I mean, he's had a defense that has been decimated the entire year. If he goes out and we beat the Vikings 38-35 in another thriller, just like the one that we beat the 49ers in, just how we beat the Packers, just how we beat like, I'm going to be frustrated if they're just like, oh, it's a runaway. It's Josh Allen. It's a runaway. And the only two other people that can touch him are, Lamar Jackson or Saquon Barkley. Okay. Look, Jared Goff is putting together a season that it's been done twice before, what he's doing, the numbers he's putting up. He's phenomenal. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's a lock. He should be in there every year. He's so good. I don't think we truly, and even Dan Campbell was talked about, like, I need to remind myself how good Amon-Ra St. Brown is from a leadership standpoint, from a way he plays to a consistency standpoint. Last year he had a really big breakout year. So I think like we just say like, oh, well, last year he had over 100 catches. He had like 1,500 yards and all that. And so all of a sudden we think this year, I think he might be better this year. His hands have been better. He's had less drops. We're throwing it to other people, but he's still doing a ton of catches. He's doing a lot of underneath stuff. And he has just been absolutely consistent and a stud. Jahmyr Gibbs. Look, these first four names that made the Pro Bowl, I'm just blown away. I'm going to say it. And this isn't biased. This is me watching it and now being able to see him for a couple games without David Montgomery. I'm sorry. I know Saquon Barkley just hit 2,000 yards. I know he's phenomenal. I know Derrick Henry has this thing. Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back in the NFL. He is. And to watch the way he changes a game, to watch the way he can run with power, to the speed that he has, he's like Chris Johnson on steroids. He's got a little Chris Johnson. He's got a little Jamal Charles, right? But he's also got a little bit of Emmitt Smith. He's got a little bit of Barry Sanders. He's got a little bit like of these great running backs. It's phenomenal to watch him. He absolutely deserves a Pro Bowl at running back. Left tackle Penei Sewell, best tackle in the game. Like, what else do you have to say about it? Frank Ragnow, kind of surprised he made it, but we always know Frank's one of the best centers in the game. He's been dealing with injuries. His name's been called more this year on some mistakes, but overall he's still Frank and doing great. Brian Branch, phenomenal safety, and Jack Fox, which is hilarious that Jack Fox made it because he never punts anymore. Now let's look at the alternates, including a couple snubs. I think that all these guys, it's like third alternate, Laporta first alternate. I get that. That makes sense. Decker, McNeil probably should have been a little bit higher up there. I love that Jack Campbell's there. Kirby Joseph. Are you kidding me? This is the bad news. This is like, I need to show you a couple of stats, all right? He got snubbed. Who made it? Xavier McKinney, and then the next one is really the one that makes me upset. But Kirby Joseph, PFF grade, he's better than McKinney. Coverage grade, better than McKinney. 9 interceptions to 7, okay? 16 receptions allowed to 23. 65 tackles to 58. Like, nothing about this says Kirby Joseph is worse than Xavier McKinney. But I know that Xavier McKinney has been very good this year. So, like, I'm not even upset necessarily about that one. I can squint and see it. I can. But here's the one that drives me nuts is Budda Baker. All right? This is the one that drives me nuts. He's allowed 39 catches. Yes, he has a lot of tackles. He's a glorified linebacker. He has no interceptions. His coverage grade and overall grade are fine. Like, you put a guy in the Pro Bowl that doesn't have an interception over a guy who has 9 and leads the league? In what world has a guy who's ever led the league in interceptions not made the Pro Bowl? Like, what are we talking about? Like, that to me is like saying, Saquon Barkley, you're not a Pro Bowl running back. I understand you're leading the league in rushing yards. You just got over 2,000. You're the 9th linebacker to do it in history, or 9th running back to do it in history. But yeah, we think other people are better. You know, we're just gonna put David Montgomery in instead. And like, no, like that doesn't make any sense. You're putting in an aging mediocre safety in over Kirby Joseph. It's a snub, all right? And I understand people don't care about Pro Bowl, but that's a snub, and that drives me nuts. But we still get a double dose of good news. Alex Anzalone is returning, and the talent that Brad Holmes has drafted just continues to show how good he is as a GM, and it continues to show, give him his flowers, how good of a coach Dan Campbell is. All right, hey, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Can't wait for Sunday night, and we'll be here afterward. See ya.